friends, it's Amy from Muddy Boots Maker with another mending video. I thought I would show you my special stretch mend. I really love mending stretch garments, so I'm going to show you all my tips and tricks on how to mend your leggings or your stretch tops, such as this one here, which is my eldest daughter's top. She has some holes in the ends of her sleeves, so we're going to patch these today and we're going to do them in a fun, visible mending style. Okay, so I have various items that I use when mending. I have my needle bookcase here. I have some of these chicken ones up for grabs in my shop, so make sure you go ahead and have a look at those. So what I keep in my needle book is some yarn to mend socks with. I've got my scissors, I've got some needles, some safety pins and some pins here. And I've also got some felt pads which I can use to patch woolen items. So out of this needle book we will be using these scissors here and this sharp needle here, which is great for getting through stretch fabric. And we will be using this cotton thread to mend the shirt. Now sometimes I like to use my mending mushrooms, but one thing you've got to be careful with when mending with these mushrooms is that you don't stretch the garment too much when you're popping them on. Now because this part is very close to the edge of the sleeve, it will be a little bit difficult for me to keep this on the needle mushroom. However, if I use a couple of elastic bands, I could pop one over this part. Whoop. So it's a little bit difficult. I could pop one over there and I could pop one around here just to hold the shirt in place on this part here. And that could possibly keep it steady, although as you can see it's puckering a bit already. So yeah, if you're going to use a mending mushroom, just make sure you don't stretch the garment and the garment is sitting at its flat state as it should. So you want it to be nice and flat. You don't want it to be pulling like so and stretching out of place, because when you take that off it's going to rise up a bit and you want it to be exactly as the rest of the garment is, nice and flat. So I'm not going to use any of my mending mushrooms for this job. I'm going to use some cardboard instead. I like cardboard because I can find a piece that fits without stretching and I can pull it all the way on like so. So I can pop rubber bands around the garment like this to hold it in place, or I can use my pins to hold it into place. So I'm going to use these pins and this piece of cardboard, and I'm not going to use the rubber bands. But first I need to find the fabric to mend the garment with. So this fabric here is from an old pair of leggings that used to be Charlotte's, and I've already pre-cut 2 squares or rectangles to mend both the holes in this garment. So there are holes on both sleeves, and one of them is a bigger patch for that hole, and then this one is a smaller one for this hole. Okay, so now we have our patches and we have our thread and we have our needle and our pins. Also our scissors. And this is basically all that you need to mend this item. Firstly, I like to just trim the edges of the hole that has been made. So I don't want this curling, see how it's curling outwards? I don't really want it to curl outwards. So I'm just going to trim that all off. You could also trim this part if you wanted, but I'm going to leave that. I'm happy with that being a part of the work. All right, I'm pretty happy with that now. Get rid of those little scraps. And I'm going to use this big patch here. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide the cardboard into the sleeve. Like so. And I'm going to pop my patch underneath, making sure that it's nice and flat and it's laying where I want it to. So it's a little bit thin out here, so I'm covering all the way up to there. So the patch is all the way up there. I'm just going to push it a little bit further. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use our pins to just gently, we're not going to pull the garment, but we're just going to place the slack of the top to the back and pin it to the back. I'm going to press the pin slightly into the cardboard to hold it in place. So I'm just making sure that it's nice and firm and it's not going to move. So now we have our working space, and what I'm going to do is put a couple more pins in here just to keep the patch in place. I'm sticking it into the cardboard a little bit. You can hear Harry's bell, one of my cats, is cleaning himself right next to the video here, so you can hear his bell chiming. Now this piece is just, this patch has just come up there, so just make sure it's completely flat. And pressing those pins in to the cardboard. You can just leave some of them like so. You don't need to push all of them into the cardboard. I just begin with them in the cardboard just to keep everything in place. And we're going to take some thread, not too long or else it will tangle up. Then we're going to tie a knot. Maybe double knot it. And then we're going to begin the stitching. So I'm just making sure I'm really happy with placement. And I'm going to start by going all the way around this hole here. So we're going to pop the thread in under and through to the outside and just tuck that tail underneath. And we're just going to do a whip stitch all the way around, except I just got tangled on the cardboard, which you've got to be careful with. So I'm just going to go all the way around. Like so. I'm catching on with the pins. Sometimes you can use safety pins. You might find those to be less catching on the thread. Yeah, it just depends on placement, I guess, too. And I'm not too bothered about, you know, the length of my stitches. I like it to be very organic, and there we go. So I'm just going to go all the way around like this, and it's pretty simple. Just continually going around. If you're finding that the needles are in the way, you can always just pop them in a different way and then they won't catch. So I'm just going to continue in this manner, and when I've finished I will come back and show you what we do next. Okay, now I have completed the mend. I have gone all the way around the hole with this whip stitch, and I ran out of thread with my first lot, so that's the end of the thread that I've just cut off there, and I will weave it in at the end. I wait until the very end before I weave in these little ends. Okay, so now we need to go around and secure the rest of the patch that goes out to here, all the way out here and around here. So I'm going to go around just doing a running stitch back and forth around the patch, and that gives this fun style that you'll see in some of my other mends that I've done. I shall put some pictures up of those mends. So all we need to do is just go back and forth, making sure we pick up the patch underneath. It's a little bit thick in this section, and I just have to make sure that I'm picking up the patch underneath. So that's nicely done there. Also just realised that the patch is a little bit folded over, so I'll just make sure that it's flat. And we just keep going around like this. And so I like to do lines where I do one line like this, and then in the next line I'm filling in the gap here. So I'm staggering the stitches. They're not all lining up, they're all sort of in the gaps from the last row. I'm just going to take all the pins out and see how I go without the pins being in there, and then they won't catch on the work. This is very thick in this section here, because of course I've got the seam of the shirt, so that's why you want to make sure that you've got a sharp enough needle to get through all that thick layer there. And I'm not pulling the thread too tight. I want it to have some flexibility in it, so I'm never pulling the thread extremely tight. So I'm just pulling it till the thread's all the way through and it's taut, but not pulling it tight so that it messes up the fabric. So I'm just going to keep going along like this. When I get over to here, the rows are going to be longer because the patch goes all the way out here. So you're just going to make sure that you're picking up that entire patch around the hole. Okay, I'm now popping another thread in. As you can see here, the other thread ran out. So I just want to show you how I pop a new thread in without you seeing the knot that I've made. So I just slide the needle between the two fabrics, so between the patch and the shirt, and then go in a bit further in, start my stitching, my runner stitch, and pull through, and the knot, so I've just given it a little tug and the knot is just right there, so it's not visible, and that's how I pop in a new thread. Okay, so I've finished all the stitching. Now all we have to do is tie in the ends. So we're going to be threading in all these ends I have here, and to do that we need to turn the work inside out. It's going to be a little bit difficult to see, but I'm just going to pull each of the threads through. I'm just pulling each of the threads through the ends. So I've got that one, and then there's one here. So I've got 4 to tie in. So what I'm basically going to do is thread the thread onto my needle, and then I'm just going to weave in and out at the back of the work, making sure I don't go through to the front of the work. So I'm going to weave through one way and then go through back the other way. And then I just cut the excess thread off. So I'm going to do that with all of the ends, and then I will show you it all finished. Okay, I'm all done on that first sleeve. It is pretty nice looking, if I do say so myself. I think Charlotte is going to love this addition to her top. And now I'm on to the second sleeve. So I've popped this on my mending mushroom, and I've just popped one elastic band around here, and I'm going to give it a go. It's a little bit further into the sweater sleeve than this one was. This one was quite close on the edge and I needed to include the band, but this one's a bit further down, so I've been able to push it as far as I can on to the mending mushroom, and now I'm going to do exactly the same as I did here, and I'm just going to stitch around the hole, and then I'm going to do the runner stitch around the hole to tie in the edges of the patch. So I will complete this mend and then I will show you my finished piece. Okay, I've finished the second patch, and so we have 2 patches on the top and it is all ready to wear again. Just show you a quick view of the inside. So there's the inside of one patch and the inside of the other patch. Oh, I've got a thread here I haven't tied in, so I will do that now. It's good to look over your work before you give it to someone to wear, because this could have come undone. So there we have it. 2 mends all done, and the top is now ready to wear. So I hope you enjoyed that little demonstration of how I mend holes in stretchy garments. And if you try this mend and post a picture over on Instagram, make sure you tag me at Muddy Boots Maker. Enjoy your mending, friends.